Alright, so this is day 88, log 3, recap. It was around 9 a.m. plus, 9 plus lah. So when we actually went to the inbound discrepancy area, which is the place where we may receive in shipments, but there's some issue, there's some problems with it, such as, for example, we can't receive it through the purchase order. There's not enough to receive and stuff like that. And apparently someone or number of people had disrupted the area again, made it messy and things like that. And I could tell that Jenna had been rearranging the place many times before, at least repeatedly. But these people kept repeating the same mistake, as if they didn't know or didn't care to put everything back nicely, and it led to a frustration. And if you were just to think about it the same way, it's like having some people or some guests just come into your house, making a huge mess out of your room, which it took you so much effort to put it back nicely. And then when the same people come in again and they just mess it all up, I'm sure you can understand frustration. And I could also relate to it as well. Now, of course, while we were at the discrepancy area, she was just, how she just vented out frustration was that she was just pulling the trolleys with a lot more force than she usually would, obviously, and trying to get everything back nicely. And she's like, you know what, I don't care. You want to rearrange however, I can just heck care, Of course, I can't do the tone right now because it's a little difficult to do it. But that's the idea. Then she went on to vent to Jeffrey, who is the outbound supervisor, that this same problem had been happening over and over again, and she's getting tired of it. She's sometimes, at one point, she's really, she's too tired to care about all of these issues. So someone else has got to take over and do a better job at it, and make sure those guys who keep messing it up get told off, and be supervised, and make sure that they don't mess up the entire place again, stuff like that. There are a lot of things in this warehouse that need to be set straight, especially due to the fact that it has a number of temp shift foreigners. Okay, and the way they do things, they may not do. I don't think they will do it properly or with some form of system in place systematically to make sure that it is proper, neat and tidy. And the technical jargon in the warehouse for that is called 5S, which comes from the five Japanese, the 5 properties or virtues of cleanliness or orderliness. Each one the Japanese phrase starting with the letter S, so 5S, but I cannot remember all of them exactly lah. But just think 5S, just think of it as just tidying up your place after you're done. It's just as simple as that. Or keeping everything clean and neat. Don't have rubbish lying all over the place. It could be a safety concern. Anyone stepping on the rubbish could just trip themselves, fall over and get an injury. You don't want them to get sent to the hospital, and that will affect everyone else, stuff like that. Then of course, there are designated things like designated pavement or areas to walk in. You don't want to obstruct those areas. You also don't want to obstruct fire exits in case there really is a fire that breaks out. So things like fire safety plans and all that kind of stuff are very important. And for those who are running, who have to go for evacuation drills, just to give everyone a certain readiness in case of such events really do happen. And they've got to plan all the exit routes, the escape routes in which to go. Don't cause a stampede, stuff like that. It may sound very basic, but I'm sure as the facilities management or planner, it can be a much harder story based on the layout of the entire area. Anyway, coming back to the point, moral of the story is, if you don't want someone to screw up or to mess up your own place over and over again, and make yourself waste more effort in just repeating the same rearranging everything again, sometimes you just got to shut them out, or you just have to be straight up with them that you don't like them doing it, and you got to make sure that they listen, or they be supervised accordingly. And another thing that was mentioned by Jenna was that Adnan actually was told off on a number of findings during the health and safety checks. And I think he had also mentioned beforehand that he wanted to do some cleaning up of the discrepancy areas and the systems that he wanted to implement to make sure that there's some form of orderliness in place. All these things, he had the idea, but he had a certain forgetfulness. He was forgetful to a certain extent that you could tell him this, and then he gets caught up in a lot of stuff, and then he forgets again. And that's one of the symptoms of being overloaded, tasking overload. So to just clear it out a bit, I don't think he meant to be forgetful, but it's really because of task overload that has been on him since probably his early days as a supervisor, has also caused him to forget things easily. And I think at the very least he should also bother to write some stuff down, okay, because it really will help. And yeah, now I really understand why Mom asked me to start writing down stuff more often. And that technique helps, and it does so for all the good reasons. Maybe you should do it the same if you find yourself forgetting stuff very easily. Not everyone has the capabilities of CPU memory or being able to remember 101 things. So having some pen and paper to write down important things, or even just somewhere to type it down on your phone and knowing where to find and refer to it. Most importantly, knowing where your reference point or your references are when you need to remember stuff is key to keeping yourself afloat. Remembering is like having some references. In the same way, engineering also requires some form of reference. Now, I won't go into the specifics of why engineering does that, but because the point is around remembering stuff lah. So in any case, writing down stuff is more than it's not just writing down stuff for the sake of it. It's to help us remember, and it's also a life skill that no one will ever tell you unless you do it yourself or you have someone to guide you through on it. So that's about it for the log.